Ever feel like you're wrestling a screen time monster?
Uh-huh.
Like it never ends right.
Yeah,
The struggle to like pry those tablets and phones away.
totally.
And I know I can't be the only one drowning in articles about managing screen time.
Mm.
You guys sent a ton in, which
Yeah.
actually, speaking of you guys, thanks for all the source material for today's, deep dive. We're tackling those screens head on.
It's funny you should say monster, right? Because a lot of times we talk about screen time as like this thing we gotta slay.
Right.
But it's more nuanced than that, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
about figuring out how do we live with this tech, not in fear of it.
Exactly. Okay, so first up, and I'm seeing this as a recurring theme in what you guys sent over, setting boundaries.
Mhm.
But honestly, doesn't that just sound exhausting?
It sounds way scarier than it needs to be. One article, it clicked for me. They said, think of it like a budget, not for your money, but for time.
Okay, like time is the currency.
Exactly. You wouldn't spend all your money in one go, right?
Please tell me I'm not the only one who's done that.
Yeah.
Maybe with like online shopping, not actual money.
Haha. Point taken. But with time, it's the same. You allocate, you decide, okay, this chunk is for screens, this one's for something else, and the payoff is huge. They were saying one study showed kids' sleep got way better in families that did this.
That is huge. I mean, we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Cranky kid up way past bedtime because of that glowing screen. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of boundaries, what about those tech-free zones? Like, is the dinner table sacred anymore?
Oh, it has to be. And this isn't just me being like anti-tech. There's actually something about how our brains work. You create a space and it signals, okay, here we connect, we talk, we eat, we don't scroll.
So it's less about no phones allowed and more about this is a phone-free zone, like a mindset thing.
Exactly. And get this, studies show that families who do this, they have way better conversations at meals. Their bonds get stronger.
Okay, now that is motivating. Sign me up for stronger bonds.
Yeah.
See, I love this stuff because it's not just about saying no to screens. It's about saying yes to something else, something better. Speaking of which, we got to talk about alternatives. You guys sent in some seriously fun ideas.
Right. Because it's easy to forget there's this whole world outside the screen, right? We used to.
Yeah.
Board games, remember those? Building forts, getting lost in a good book.
Dude, don't even get me started on blanket forts. I may or may not have spent an entire weekend in one with my kids recently.
See, that's what it's all about. And it's not just about the kids either. One of the articles mentioned this, and it really struck me. We have to walk the walk. We're the role models here. If we're glued to our phones, how can we expect our kids to be any different?
That's so true. But honestly, it's way easier said than done. Am I right? Like, my phone is basically an extension of my hand at this point.
And that's okay. We all struggle with it. It's about being mindful, right? Catch yourself when you reach for the phone out of habit and then think, okay, what could I be doing instead?
Okay, that's actually really helpful. I like that. It's not about being perfect, it's about being aware. But what about those times when you need a little extra help? I'm talking about parental controls.
Right. And I know some parents are like, ooh, that feels icky, like Big Brother.
Totally.
But here's the thing. Think of it like training wheels on a bike. You wouldn't throw a kid on a bike without them, right? They need that support to find their balance. Parental controls, it's the same idea. It's not about punishment. It's about giving them the tools to manage this technology until they can do it on their own.
And what I loved about what these articles suggested, it's not about just setting the controls and forgetting it. Have those conversations with your kids. Explain why you're setting the limits, what they can do instead.
Absolutely. Make it a team effort, not a dictatorship. That's where the real learning happens.
Okay, so to recap for everyone, we're setting those boundaries, carving out tech-free zones, rediscovering the joy of non-screen time, and most importantly, leading by example. And hey, if we need a little help along the way, parental controls are there to support us, not to make us feel like the bad guys.
Yeah, nailed it. It's a journey, guys, not a race. And at the end of the day, it's about figuring out what works for you, for your family. What matters most is that you're being intentional, you're having those conversations, and you're creating a healthy relationship with technology. So tell me, what's one screen-free activity you loved as a kid that you'd love to share with your family now?
Ooh, good one. We'll be thinking about that too, listeners. Let us know your answers on social media.
See you next time.